To be or not to be? That is the question. We're not going to answer it right now, but this week on the 302, we are at Rockwood and we're taking a deep dive into Shakespeare, in particular, the 12th night being put on by Del Shakes. It's cool, it's creative, and you definitely want to come out and check it out. Get ready, the 302 is headed your way. Hey everybody, we are chilling at Rockwood. I'm hanging out with Mariah Gant. She is the producing artistic director for Del Shakes, aka Delaware Shakespeare. Now Mariah, you got to answer the question, to be or not to be. What's the answer?
That is the question, isn't it?
Absolutely. Every time people think of Shakespeare, that's the first thing that comes to their mind. But I want to talk a little bit about Del Shakes, about your mission. You guys are out there making sure that Shakespeare goes to every single corner of the Wilmington area. Talk to us about that.
Absolutely. So Delaware Shakespeare, we are Delaware's only professional Shakespeare company. Mm-hmm. We do 2 major productions throughout the year, but our mission is to create vibrant theater and storytelling for educational opportunities. And we try to bring this theater throughout the entire state of Delaware.
Okay.
Yeah, so we try really hard to break down some of those barriers that make access to theater otherwise difficult. During the summer, we do our summer festival production right here at Rockwood Park, and we are always up against the elements no matter what, but we love to be able to bring theater right here to the community.
Yeah.
And then during the fall, we do our community tour. And so we go throughout the entire state of Delaware, taking our production to non-traditional performance spaces like women's shelters, prisons, libraries. We try really hard to break down some of those barriers like cost, location, and even just the general storytelling to make people be able to feel like they can tap into the story that we're telling. So
that's got to be quite an endeavor because, you know, taking such a beloved yet complicated art to the community, you know, there are certain things that you need in order to do this. So how do you, plan for such a thing and come up with ideas like women's prisons and things like that?
Absolutely. I'm really thankful that I was able to come into this organization that has had such a well-built relationship with the community. It's always been something that's been central to our mission for 23 years.
Yeah.
And my predecessors have done a really good job of building out those kinds of programs. And so even just the idea of being able to take Shakespeare into prisons, you know, that's something that people think maybe at first glance doesn't make any sense. You know, what are people going to be able to get from that experience? But what it really is doing is showing people that Shakespeare can be for everyone.
Yeah.
I am a firm believer that art is for everyone, period. And Shakespeare especially is. And so we work really hard to try to make this kind of theater for everyone.
Yeah.
It's really hard when you have somebody like Shakespeare who people try to hold on this pedestal.
Yeah.
People try to say like, oh, he's untouchable, you can't, his work is perfect. I don't feel that way. I think his work is incredibly complicated. I think the way that we continue to tell it is so important to how it's perceived and how it's received by audience members. If you tell the stories just like they were written 400 years ago, it might not have the exact same impact as it does to be able to kind of tear it apart, much like we're doing this summer with 12th Night O Lo Que Quieras, which is a bilingual musical adaptation of Shakespeare's 12th Night.
So we're going to dive into 12th Night in our second segment, but I wanted to really get into the theme that you were talking about. You know, a lot of people don't realize a lot of the films that we watch, you know, are based on Shakespearean themes, you know, of passion and jealousy and love and
ambition
and ego and all of these things. So, you know, how do you dissect what some people, as you said, see as a formal, you know, art into, how do you make it so people, it's more absorbable for people who maybe have never been exposed to the high art that Shakespeare can be in some circumstances?
Yeah, I think the first way we do that is through conversation.
Yeah.
Through conversation and connection.
Yeah.
It starts with a director. It starts with the cast coming together, figuring out exactly what we want this story to be telling for this time period. And I think that's exactly how it starts, right? It's just, what are these conversations that are taking place every day? And how can we make them for ourselves, make the theater so that it really does speak to the people?
So when you put on different presentations, different plays, and you modernize them, do you have a static group of actors that you keep every year, or do you bring in new actors for each performance?
That's a great question. I think Del Shakes does a really good job of trying to have a really strong community of artists. So we won't always have the exact same actors in every single show. We don't have a company of actors, but we do have quite a few actors that we've come to really care and love about, who really understand Del Shakes, understand our mission and our values, who we keep close. We also have something called the Artistic Squad, which is a way for us to employ 2 or 3 artists over the course of the entire year. And they're kind of like our first line of defense, I say.
Yeah.
They assist a lot with some of our productions, a lot with some of our idea making, with season planning. And so they're a great way to keep us connected to different artists throughout the community, keep a pulse on what's happening. We even have one of those artists serve on our board, so they're a part of those conversations as well. I think that's something that keeps us really unique, is being able to have our artists be so close to the work that we're doing.
Yeah.
And yeah, they just keep us really up to date on ways that we can best be serving artists as well.
That's incredible. And we're really looking forward to hearing more about 12th Night. And we're going to do that when we return. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Brett John Johnson, the Executive Director at the Delaware Contemporary. Happy to be back at the 302.
Welcome back. We're at Rockwood and we're talking about Delaware Shakespeare, aka Del Shakes. I'm with Mariah Gant and the 12th Night. So let's just set the stage. Tell us the story of the 12th Night for those who may not be familiar with it.
Absolutely. So 12th Night by Shakespeare, the original production, follows 2 siblings who have shipwrecked on Illyria, and they're separated and they're trying to find their way back to each other. They end up having to go on their own journeys. Violetta, in our production as we call her, or Viola as she is in the original Shakespeare text, Violetta ends up working with both Orsino and Olivia, both people who live and exist in this land of Illyria. And Viola, or Violetta as we call her, she ends up having to disguise herself as she goes in between these 2 different people, all while trying to get back to her brother. So in this adaptation, we are a bilingual musical adaptation, as I said. So the twins are coming from Venezuela, and they arrive in Illyria, which looks a lot like a modern America. And they arrive on the eve of a very intense political election. And so Orsino is trying to be elected into power alongside Olivia. They're against each other. They both have very differing ideas. And when Violetta arrives with her brother Sebastian, she's immediately kind of caught up in this. The papers that her and her brother had allowing them to be here, they lose, and they end up trying to get and find their way back to each other, much like in the original story. But they get caught interacting with both Orsino and Olivia, as well as a host of other clowns and various people throughout Illyria as they try to make their way back.
So we have a couple of clips of the workshop of this. Can you tell us a little bit about what we're going to be seeing?
Absolutely. So one of these is a recording of our composer and music writer, Liz Filios. She is one of the original authors of the book, along with Tana Kill Marquez. And then Liz will be at the piano playing, as well as we have Izzy, one of our actors. Izzy plays the role of Violetta, and Izzy will be singing. They're singing a song from the show that is originally written by Liz. And it's a beautiful, beautiful song in which Violetta is expressing their love and trying to find their connection with I won't give it away with one of the characters in the show.
Yeah, it seems like it's going to be such a dynamic performance. And when you're evaluating how to make something modern and relevant for, the community, I mean, you have bilingual and musical and Shakespeare. Now, is this a combination you see often? Or is this just the lightning bolt of inspiration that hit the various directors and writers this season?
Yeah, Liz has a great story. My predecessor, David Stradley, who was here for 12 years, after another show that Liz was working on, David went up to Liz and was like, yeah, and the next thing you're gonna do for us is you're gonna write a musical, right? And
Liz,
you're like,
oh, sure.
Yeah, and Liz said, I take that as a challenge. And she went back and immediately started writing some songs. And she went to David and she said, so I have these. I think it could be a great story for 12th Night. And he commissioned her to write it. And along the way, Tana came in, along with a host of other people who've had some great input into the story. And it really just evolved. Yeah. We originally did this for our community tour production back in 2022. And I was an artistic squad member actually at the time.
Yeah.
And I went to go see that production. And within the first few chords of the song, I started tearing up. It was just so beautiful, and I could tell there was something there. And as the story went on, I just was so in awe of what was created. And like I said, the community tour, we're in these non-traditional performance spaces. I was seeing this show in the back of a restaurant in South Philly. And it was just intimate and so moving. And I said, we have to do this again. And I did not have any power at that time. But now as the producing artistic director with a little bit of power, I was like, we're gonna program it. And I think in terms of, musical and adaptation in Shakespeare, those things definitely exist. Like, there are plenty of people who've gone out and made adaptations, made musicals, but this one specifically, I think putting that lens of a migrant story trying to come to a new land is so important and so unique. And so that's why I find it really, really important that we're sharing it right now.
So you talk about non-traditional spaces. I mean, I don't know, a park, so you sort of expect that there's going to be some Shakespeare breaking out somewhere, but actually doing it must be a challenge or not.
Oh, it's a challenge.
In this space here, we've got this great lawn. If you've ever been to Rockwood, which I highly recommend that you come out for this or some other reason. But and what's the layout gonna be?
Absolutely. Okay, so we are doing our show with these beautiful trees back behind us, and then the actual audience themselves will go up, down this beautiful expanse of land, up to in front of the mansion itself. Our production manager, along with our crew, they do an amazing job of building this set in only 4 days.
Wow.
We have 4 days to put everything together, and then our actors come on out. We get our light designers in, our sound designer in, and we continue to build out the show. This is truly a labor of love. I think a lot of people come to see theater and they see the actors on stage and they're like, that's great work they've done. But it's so many more people that goes into this. Like I said, our crew, our production team, our stage management team, our entire front of house team that gets people seated, our box office team, even just our staff with the work that we do with marketing, producing. It takes a lot of work to make this happen. And we're a pretty small organization, all things considered. But when we come out here, we end up having audiences of anywhere from 2,000 people up over the course of the entire summer. So it's really beautiful to be able to go from being, a small company to expand wide enough to be able to have up to 2,000 people come out and interact with this work.
That's amazing. How exciting for you guys. I can't wait. When we get back, we're going to talk a little bit more about the 12th night and what goes into it, but we're also going to talk about funding at a tough time when people are tightening their belts. We'll be right back.
I'm Chelsea Memelo from the Dover Art League, and I love how the colors of art come alive on the 302.
All right, welcome back. We are at Rockwood and we're talking about Del Shakes and the 12th night. I'm here with Mariah Gant. Now, Mariah, one of the things that makes Shakespeare so cool are the costumes.
Oh, of course.
There's not going to be any pantaloons, I don't think, in this, or are there?
No pantaloons, but we will have some yellow cross-gartered stockings. If you don't know exactly how that ties into 12th night, I mean, you got to come see it to see exactly how that rolls out.
Absolutely. And you talk about, you know, the front of the house folks, you have the actors, you have the people that kind of take care of the business end of things. But there are a lot of people that do the sets, you mentioned them. But the costumes really have got to take a lot of thought, a lot of planning, and a lot of, you know, just hard work to have them come together. Absolutely,
yeah. Our costume designer this year is Rebecca Kanak. She's an amazing designer with a lot of credits across the Philadelphia area and beyond. We're really so excited to have her on the team. And we're thinking a little bit more expansively, of course, as we're doing this adaptation. So we're looking a lot at very, very bright colors, trying to find ways to show the different political groups between Orsino's group and Olivia's group. So leaning into some of those colors, as well as Feste, who's our clown. Feste is going to have their own kind of color of unity that's going to hopefully bring folks together. So you can look for some of those things woven throughout the storytelling as well.
I'm so excited. The more you talk about it, the more I want to come.
Hey, that's why I keep talking about it to people.
So, you know, there are going to be a lot of people who are going to say, you know, I really would love to have, you know, Del Shakes, you know, come to my school or come to, you know, my church or whatever, and just kind of like show us, you know, the depth and the beauty of Shakespeare. I mean, are you guys working on something that would allow, I mean, I know you do the traveling, but...
Yeah. So for the community tour, this year we are starting to do some of our location planning with some of our locations. So if folks are interested, I'm always asking for folks to reach out to me. If we can't get you on the schedule for this year, we love to find ways to do it in the future. And then for education, we are launching an educational tour, which will go into junior highs and high schools. So similarly, if people have high schools that you're interested in bringing, it's another adaptation of a Shakespeare. We actually have a story called QVK, Queens versus Kings. And it's about a group of friends who get together and are trying to figure out who has the best monologues in Shakespeare, queens or kings. Until you learn out the V also stands for villains. So then we get some villain monologues in there as well. So this tour takes a production of that along with a workshop around rhetoric and how rhetoric shows up in Shakespeare. So it's great not just for drama classes, but for English classes, history classes. It's a really lovely tour. So if people are interested, they can definitely reach out and find out more there.
It really is dynamic when you think about, you know, taking something that, you know, maybe back in the day, back whenever I was in school, you read it, you know, it was very self-explanatory, but just taking it and breaking it apart and doing a program where you compare the kings and the queens and the villains, and it really just must be such a great job to have.
Yeah, it's really joyous. I've been a person who's loved Shakespeare since I was 13, ironically enough. While most people were saying it was really hard to understand and read, I was the person in class raising my hand, wanting to do the out loud reading for it. And I know and recognize that that's not everybody's journey with Shakespeare or with theater, period. And so I just want to try to do my part as much as possible to try and get people to see that even if you don't love every single aspect of it, there is a way to see yourself reflected in these stories. So the little work that we can do to try to get people to, like I said, break down what feels like a barrier into understanding, I want to try and do that as often as possible.
So fulfilling that mission and that desire that you have along with the other people in Del Shakes, is it more difficult now that, you know, funding is being cut back in so many different areas? It must be a challenge.
Yeah, I think we're seeing that it is a difficult time, period. And especially to be in the arts and culture sector. You know, people are really being specific about where they're putting their funds towards, which I completely hear and understand. But there's a really big importance for allowing the arts to continue. Theater is a space of community. It is a space of healing. It provides people with a way to understand, to empathize, and to connect with others. And it's so crucial more than ever to ensure that as we're going through these difficult times, we continue to have theater as a space, as an outlet. I know some organizations that had funding promised to them and lost that funding.
Yeah.
And so more than ever, it's so important for people to not just buy tickets, but buy a ticket, make a small donation, send your kids to a camp.
Yeah.
Exactly, like find those opportunities to interact. And even if it is just having a deeper relationship when you come to see the show, trying to talk to somebody afterwards, that helps us to see that we're able to do our work and do our work well and continue on.
Now, do you have a drive that you guys do, or a special event where it's like your fundraising event? I know some folks or some organizations have galas, or you have the workshops and things like that. But what kinds of opportunities for donation do people have with you guys?
Absolutely, there are two major ones this year. This year in the fall, we'll have our gala for our community tour, so people can keep an eye out for that. You get a ticket to see our community tour production, which will be The Two Gentlemen of Verona, along with some time to interact with the artists beforehand, as well as like just some additional fun gala opportunities. And then the other one is 12 for 12, which is something we're running specifically for 12th night. We're trying to get 1,000 people to each donate $12. And $12 does so much for us as an organization. I know it sounds like a little, but it really is a crucial amount to allow us to continue on. So we're trying to hit that 12,000 mark over the course of the run.
Well, I tell you what, I have $12.
Great.
So I will donate $12.
Thank you.
And I challenge all of the folks watching, all you guys in 302 land, you watch our show. Now you can donate $12 so we can have more Shakespeare in Delaware, and we can have Mariah back on telling us what's going on in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate the work that you do, and we're really looking forward to having you back on the 302 soon.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, Jackie.
Oh, no worries. We'll be right back. Are you enjoying our deep dive into Shakespeare? Well, you want to make sure if you come out and check it out, take a couple of photos and share it with us on Facebook. Now, here are some other things you might want to check out. Okay, folks, you gotta join me on my $12 challenge for Del Shakes. All you gotta do is go to delshakes.org. That'll do it for this week's episode of the 302. Make sure you follow us on Facebook to get some behind-the-scenes content you're just not gonna get anywhere else. We're gonna leave you now with some garden shots around Rockwood. Until next time, I'm Jackie Ferris. Tell them you saw it on the 302.